You are listening to the best of Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector with Tabatha L.
Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector podcast. I am your host, Tabatha L. I will use my electrical on-the-job training as well as my electrical background to answer code questions on residential, commercial, and light industrial. I have talked with a lot of electrical contractors, and one of the things that they constantly state is that they wish the code could be interpreted and enforced with consistency throughout the local municipalities and local jurisdictions. And that's my goal, to establish consistency. I am an electrical inspector. I've been in the trade for 33 years. I originally got my start as an electrician in the United States Navy. I served in the Navy for 6 years as an electrician. I was on board ships such as the USS Sustain and the USS Emory Land. Upon being honorably discharged from the military, I joined local union, IBEW Local 1 in St. Louis, Missouri. I worked in Local 1 for 17 years as an electrician. So I have a lot of experience in the electrical industry, and I work as an electrical inspector. I do all sorts of electrical inspections, and on some of the jobs that I've had, there are some issues that are continuous. And some of those issues are, we have issues with listings. And when I say listings, I mean the national recognized testing laboratories. So there's issues with things that come out of testing laboratories that doesn't have any listings on them. So that's an issue that we would like to address. Let's just start in the beginning of the code book with the introduction. So the National Electrical Code Book, it's a code book that's established to protect electrical workers and electrical protection of safeguarding against equipment when you're installing it. So basically, it's just a minimum requirement of electrical installations that you have to follow if you're going to install electrical work. National Electrical Code has been around for 117 years, just in case you didn't know that. And we're going to go into introductions, and we're going to start there. So, like I stated, the purpose of the code is to practice safeguarding of persons and properties from hazards arising from the electricity. This code is not intended as a design for any specifications or any instructional manual for untrained people. So starting in Article 90, A would be the practical safeguarding. B would be adequacy. The code contains provisions and consider necessary safeties, compliance within. So looking at the introduction, this will help you to understand the code and give you some basic general insights. So if you're just beginning to learn the National Electrical Code, that's a good thing to do. Go and read the introduction. The introduction will introduce you to what's to come in the code. Also, when you're in the code, you have general definitions. And these general definitions describe things that are applied, that we use to apply in the code, such as accessibility. I have that a lot. GFI, GFCI protection. I have that where a GFI, it needs to be readily accessible. So it needs to be within reach. But if you can't reach it, it's not accessible. So going through these definitions will give you some really good information on understanding the National Electrical Code. Okay. So Article 100, we start with definitions. Article 110 is basically just general requirements, basic general requirements. And I mentioned earlier, one of the code articles that I deal with on a frequent basis is Article 110.3B, installation and uses. Listed and labeled equipment shall be installed and used in accordance with any instructions included in the listings. That's one that I see every single day. I see that. In the requirements for the electrical installation, you have different articles. This is really a good place to start when you're going to install anything electrical, because it just gives you the basic minimum requirements.
You are listening to the best of Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector with Tabatha L.
I received positive feedback regarding my first episode. I would like to thank each and every person that reached out and personally gave me positive input and support. I want to reiterate why I created this platform. This platform is created for the electrical industry so that we can discuss and agree on the minimum requirements of the National Electrical Code for their projects. Earlier this week, I had a contractor ask me. The contractor was from a different state. He was a general contractor. So he was doing work in the St. Louis area. And I asked the contractor who's doing his low voltage cabling for this particular job site. The contractor stated that the state in which he comes from, they don't require you to have an electrical permit if you're doing low voltage cabling. So I just want to describe what low voltage cabling is. Low voltage cabling could consist of fire alarm cable, data cable, security cable, fiber optics, point of sale cable. It's just a 30 volt or less type of communication cable that needs to be installed by a licensed electrical contractor with a permit and an inspection. So I just wanted to open this platform up to any electrical contractors or general contractors that are new to the local area and not sure on what code articles apply or what code. If you need a permit for certain jobs, that you can listen to this platform, give me a call, email me, and I can answer some of those questions for you. I received a question from a homeowner, and the question states, I am a retired registered nurse and a homeowner. I was wondering if your podcast would be something that homeowners could listen to and learn from. I think that as a homeowner, you can listen to the podcast and you can learn something. I mean, if it's just something as simple as electrical safety in your homes. I'll give you some examples of when I go to homes, and when I'm there, these are existing homes. Electrical contractor, he may have a small job in the basement, because these days now we're not working in the offices anymore. So a lot of people are having home offices installed in their homes. So I get to go and do a lot of those inspections, and walking through people's homes, I do see some things. I try to stay focused on why I'm there, but I do see some things. And if I do see something in your home, I can't call it out. If it's really a safety issue, I will say to you, hey, this is something you should get addressed, because it's a safety issue and it's a hazard, and it could possibly cause you injury, or it's just an electrical hazard. I will point that out to you. So some of the things that I see in some homes, I see a lot of missing cover plates for your switch covers and your receptacle covers. That's pretty dangerous, I think, because plate, you can get it in Home Depot. You can use what we call a 10-in-1 screwdriver. It has different tips for an average homeowner to use. Is one tool, and it's called a 10-in-1 because you can change this tip to 10 different variations to use. You can use it as a flathead screwdriver. You can use it as a Phillips screwdriver. You can use it as a hex head, and you'll get familiar with this if you need to do this in your home. So the switch covers, they're so easy. If you see your screws backing off of your switch cover, just take a screwdriver, not a butter knife, and just secure it back in place. And that can help you along the way, because that will be one less thing you have to worry about. Also, sometimes when I am in people's homes, I see receptacles that are damaged. It looks like there's possibly a burn there, and that is an indication that maybe that receptacle is really hot. I would suggest that you get someone to look at that if you see any burn marks on your receptacles, or take the back of your hand and just gently touch the back of your receptacles to see, are they hot, because they should not be hot to the touch. Those are a few things that I've noticed. And a couple other things that I've noticed in some homes, they are existing residents. GFCI protection within 6 feet of sinks. This code article is really important. You should try to have that done if you can, because it's a safety feature. Because if anything happens, that circuit would trip with that GFI breaker or receptacle. So it's really a good safety practice to have those receptacles installed around water within 6 feet. Okay, and then another thing, this is just my opinion from my knowledge and from my experience. I see a lot of electrical furniture that I'm seeing in homes, some of the homes that I'm going inside, and some of that furniture consists of sofas with LED lighting And some sofas with the LED lightings, and it has different components on it, like it could have a stereo system on it, or some type of iPod system on it, or some type of equipment to listen to music. And the problem that I think, now this is just my personal opinion and what I've seen through experience, if you have such an item in your home, don't, and I repeat, do not leave it plugged into a receptacle outlet unattended. If you want to enjoy it in the comfort of your home, that's very well advised, but please unplug it if it's going to be unmonitored, because it could cause a possible fire hazard, and that's something, just my personal opinion as a homeowner, I think you should do, because I am a homeowner as well. So, and other furnitures that you may have in your homes could be massage chairs, recliners, adjustable desks. If you have a lamp that plugs into a table with a USB cord or jack, those are type of furnishings that are being sold at this time. And sometimes when I go into people's homes, I see broken light bulbs. Those are little small things that a homeowner can, if they're not sure how to things taken care of, just call your local electrical contractor. I'm sure they'll come out and they'll get that taken care of, because you don't want your electrical issues to build up and just create more of a safety hazard than you really can afford. So if you just get the little things, when you see them, they won't add up. So I want to go to some code questions that I received via email. And one of those code questions that I received states, do grounded and ungrounded conductors of multiple wire circuits have to be grouped together inside a panel board or other enclosures? Yes. That comes from Code Article 250.52. Code Article 250.52, that's in the Code Cycle 214 and 20. It's actually the same code article. And I'll go to 214 and I'll read that for you. Hold on. That code article is 210.4D. Yes, I'm going to go to that code article for you. I'm going to read it for you. Okay, so the ungrounded and the grounded conductors of each multi-wire circuit shall be grouped together or similar means in at least one location within the panel board or the point of origination. So that being said, it must be grouped together. And the code article is 210.4D. Yes. A second code question that I received, can metal flex be installed in wet location if drip loops are installed? No. I found that in article, it's a couple sections where you can look at this and find it. The first article I want you to look at would be Article 300.6. In Article 300.6, it states protection against corrosion and deterioration. Okay, so with that being said, the raceways, cable trays, and cable armors, boxes, etc., shall be made of material suitable for the environment in which they are installed. So that's raceways. And the reason why I went directly to that article is because it just details and highlights raceways. So you specifically asked for flexible, metal flex. So I'm assuming that means FMC, flexible metallic conduit. So that article is also, you can go there and look for it and see the same thing. And that article is Article 348.12. Let's go there if you have your code books. And we're going to read that article and tell you why use metal raceways. Okay. Yes, here we are. Use is permitted. So 348.12. It's the same in the 2014 code as it is in the 2020 code. So it states that use is not permitted. C shall not be used in the following locations, in wet locations. That's the first thing that it states in the use is not permitted in wet locations. So it goes hand in hand with Article 300.6 because you need to make sure that any raceways or materials that you're using for electrical installations, that it's conducive to the environment in which you're installing it. So if it's outside, you need to make sure that the weather, the type of material you use won't deteriorate or corrode. So you have to have it galvanized. There are certain things you need to use, and there are certain raceways you can't use. So flexible metallic conduit you cannot use in wet locations or outside. Okay, here's another question that I received. In duplex, multi-family dwelling units, apartment complex, do both service disconnects have to be grouped together? Yes. You can find that in Article 230.72.
You are listening to the best of Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector with Tabatha L.
Welcome to the third episode of Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector podcast. I am your host, Tabatha L. I received quite a few emails from homeowners and electricians asking electrical questions regarding their homes and jobs. I'll get right into the questions. The first question I received, homeowner asks, why do I need to have a permit done? Why do I need to have a permit to have work done in my home, in my own home? Every project that you're doing in your home doesn't always require a permit. Whether these projects need a permit, it depends on your local building municipalities, which has its own permitting requirements. So you would need to reach out to your local municipality, go up to City Hall, and ask for that municipality's building ordinance or electrical ordinance, and they will have them. And nowadays, you can look it up online as well, because I've done that in some areas where I didn't quite understand their electrical ordinances. So, or what was required in that municipality of what they wanted inspected. So I will go on the website and look it up. That's one way you can do that. So with that being said, the projects that are most likely to require permits are those projects that will change the structural layout of your home. For instance, if you're adding a new addition to your home, you're going to need a permit. If you're doing a renovation in your home, you're going to need a permit. here are examples of why you would need to pull an electrical permit. If you're changing or upgrading your electrical service in your home, like if you have a 100 amp service and you want to go to a 200 amp service, you would need to call a qualified electrician to come out and to look at that job and give you an estimate and call in for an inspection. You will want that inspected. The National Electrical Code, there's an Article 230, which is pertaining to electrical services. So in Article 230, you have to follow these guidelines on installing services. So what the inspector would do would come out and make sure that that electrical contractor followed those guidelines. Another thing you could possibly, well, you do need a permit if you're going to build a swimming pool in your backyard. Because with building a swimming pool, now you need to excavate, you need electric, you need plumbing. These things require permits because you're changing the layout of your home, and it's required. And it really is beneficial for you to make sure that you have a permit, because if you have a contractor come into your home and he doesn't have a license and he's not bonded and something happens to your home, and we're talking about electricity, so let's just stick with that. If you have, just say you hire your brother-in-law to install a panel. Your brother-in-law, he may work as a carpenter and he may work around electricians, so he may have some electrical experience, but he put this panel in your house. He installed this panel in your house. So let's just say 6 months later, you have a house fire. The fire marshal comes. He narrows it down to it being an electrical fire that started in your panel. Okay? So once they narrow that down, and that's the corporate, now they want to know who was the last contractor in your house, who did the work. So I've been in that situation with homeowners when I go to look at certain things. They can't tell you who did it. So now that's a problem, because that's going to be a problem with your insurance company. Because if it's an electrical fire, that insurance company wants to go to that electrical contractor, which that person should be licensed and bonded to recoup their money. And if you hired your brother-in-law and he's not licensed and bonded, most likely you're just going to be out of a home. So you're really protecting yourself by getting a qualified electrician that can pull permits and will have inspections performed, because that's really important. So here's another question that I received from a homeowner. This question is pertaining to what I just mentioned, license and bonding. So you want to check to make sure that your contractor is licensed and bonded, like I just mentioned. And a way to do that is to ask the contractor. You can ask him if he has a certificate of insurance, which could provide the name of the insurance company, insurance policy number or something to that sort, just to verify that they have coverage. I would not, and I repeat, I would not do business with any contractor that could not provide me that information that I'm looking for, because, like I mentioned, that would solely be on you. So just make sure that they're licensed and bonded. So what does it mean to be licensed? So being licensed just simply means that an individual, they passed the minimum requirements in their field. They took a test and they passed the minimum requirements of that state. Like each state has requirements. Like if you want to be a doctor, you would have to take a test to, well, we know you would have to go to school for a certain amount of years, but you just can't go and start operating on someone. You would have to have training. So to become an electrician, you would have to have training. You have to go through an apprenticeship training program. You would have to on-the-job experience, take a state test just to pass the minimum requirements, just to say that you are proficient in that field. So that's what the license part means. And the bonding part just means that they have insurance. The bottom line, they have insurance. Here's another question that I received from a homeowner, and it states, how do you know how to vet a good electrician to ensure that your home is safe? One thing I would do if I was looking for an electrician, I probably would Google electrical contractors, and I would look for the stars. I would look and see how many stars they had, like 5 stars, and I would get a list, and I would get several estimates with electrical contractors that have 5 stars. I wouldn't go below 3 myself. If you didn't have 4.5 or 5, I would not hire you. Another thing I would do as a homeowner, I would hire an electrical contractor in my state. And that's probably just my own preference, but I would want someone that's local, because in my opinion, that would be easier to deal with if you had any problems that arise due to anything that contractor did. You could deal with them locally, because each state has different requirements. Because if you cross a state line, now you have to deal with that state and their requirements. So that's another thing I would do. I would just make sure I hired a local contractor. Okay, here we go. So here's another question. This is a homeowner's question. During the summer, my electrical box always has a couple of trips. When we turn on our portable AC, so I guess this homeowner is saying when she turns on her air conditioning in the summertime, it's a portable AC unit, and it trips the breakers. So she's asking me, does this mean she needs to upgrade her service? If your AC keeps tripping and the breaker keeps tripping, that's an indication that something is wrong. Something's definitely wrong, because the circuit breaker, it trips. It's a safety feature. And if it trips and it continues to trip, it's a reason, because that's the indication telling you, hey, something's wrong. It's possible that you may need to upgrade your electrical box, but I'm not sure unless you get an electrician out there to just look into it, because just depending on when your house was built, like bedrooms, living rooms, hallways, those are the type of rooms that share circuits. So depending on where you're plugging your air conditioning in, if you're plugging it into the living room and you are sitting in the living room and you have your TV on, you may have a laptop, a light on, anything that draws power. And then in some other part of your home, one of your kids, they're in the bedroom, they're playing their games, and they have electrical, like they have every light on in the house. And now you turn on your air conditioner, the portable, you plug this in. So that alone is a high starting current. So that's going to pop on, and when it does, it's going to flicker. So that is an indication that you have an overload. So you can hire an electrician to see if he can balance your load out, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to upgrade. But if you are able, you should. Here we go. I'm going to move on to another question. I want to go back on that question a little bit because I have a note here. Because I just thought about this. So if you have a portable air conditioner, like on that air conditioner, the nameplate, the manufacturer, it has to put who made the air conditioner. It has to have on there the amount of voltage it pulls. So if it's plugging into a wall circuit, that's telling me it's 120. And also, it'll tell you the amperage. So with a portable air conditioner, I'm thinking you need 20 amps on that. That's probably a minimum. If it's a smaller one, it's possible 15. And you need a dedicated circuit for that by itself. So you probably should hire an electrician or somebody to come out and look at that, because with 15 amps just for that air condition by itself, it should be on a dedicated circuit, and nothing else should be on there. Let me move on. Okay, so this says you talked about receptacles overheating. What do you do if it happens? And if it happens, can you still use the plug? Yes, I did mention that on my last episode, and I want to thank you for listening and bringing that up. Thank you. Okay, so I did talk about that. So if you notice that your outlet is hot to the touch, that's telling you something is wrong. So if it's hot to the touch, I would unplug everything that's plugged into it, and I would turn off the circuit breaker or pull the fuse, and I will call an electrician immediately if it's hot where you just can't touch it because something is wrong. I don't know if it's aluminum wiring because that is excessively hot, but just unplug everything and remove it. And then you state, can you still use that plug? No, don't use that plug. Turn off the breaker, call an electrician immediately. So part 2 of this question states, how can you tell if the outlet is overly hot to the touch? Well, no, she's asking, how can you, also, are there other signs of overheating? Like she's asking me, how can you tell if it's overheating? So the only thing I can say with a receptacle being over, that you can tell if it's overheating. When I go through homes and I see receptacles, if it's a receptacle and it has a scorch mark on it or smut like black soot or something, or if it looks like it's melting, because I've seen receptacles like that where it's melting, something's going on with that circuit. So those are really the only visible indications that you probably can physically see. And that would be some type of scorch mark on that receptacle, some type of burn mark on that receptacle, and if the receptacle is deformed and it doesn't have the original shape. And another thing I have seen in homes where the ground tail, the grounding prong has broken off into the receptacle. That's something that needs to be repaired as well, because if you plug something in, you don't have a ground. And that's another discussion. So I'm not going to go too far into that.
You are listening to the best of Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector with Tabatha L.
This evening, I would like to provide basic installation requirements for hydro massage tubs, also known as jacuzzi bathtubs. The minimum requirements for the installation of hydro massage bathtubs, you can get this information from Article 680.70 in the National Electrical Code. There are a variety of tubs available that comes with different voltages, 120 or 240 volts. There are different styles, And there are different features that comes with these tubs, such as jets, heaters, and blowers, and tons of other bells and whistles. The jacuzzi bathtubs, also referred to as whirlpools, require additional maintenance and requires a professional installation. What you need to know as a homeowner is that all additional features require specific electrical wiring to ensure your safety when using them in such close proximity to water. The National Electrical Code has strict and clear regulations detailing how these jacuzzi tubs, hydro massage tubs, or whirlpool tubs are required to be installed. If you're looking to add one of these tubs to your bathroom renovations, be sure to call a professional electrician to help with the installation. I wanted to give you some basic requirements when you're installing the hydro massage tubs in your or upgrading your bathrooms. So when you're upgrading your bathrooms, there are many ways to add to the value by adding a hydro massage jacuzzi bathtub. As I mentioned, there are so many different variations of these pools, and it really can truly turn your bathroom into a spa-like experience. But you really want to be safe with the minimum requirements for the code. So I'm just going to jump right into it and just state some of the basics that inspectors we look for when we're doing these type of inspections. And one thing you need to do as a homeowner before you do anything, before you hire an electrician, before you go to any, before you have anyone come out and sell you a hydro massage bathtub, you need to check with your local municipality, because most municipalities, they have some regulations that you need to follow in order to have the massage tubs installed in your homes. So some of the requirements are that you need to have a professional with a license, whether it's a plumber, electrician, or a builder. They have to be a professional, and they have to have a license. These tubs can be installed in your home, inside or outside. And all jacuzzi, bathtubs, hydro massage tub require some form of electricity. Also, I want you to know that if you're going to install it, and when you check with your local municipality, an electrical permit will be required to install the tub to make sure that it's done correctly. So let's just jump right into Article 680.70, and that article is in the National Electrical Code. So I'm getting this information from the National Electrical Code 2014. Also, I have been looking into 2020, and I have checked the language for the National Electrical Code in 2023, just to see if anything really changed significantly in the code regarding the hydro tubs. Just wanted to make sure. I don't know which code cycle you're on, but pretty much it didn't change as far as 2014, 2020, and 2023. So Article 680.71 states that a hydro massage tub is required to have a dedicated circuit. That's one of the electrical requirements. It has to have a dedicated 100 a dedicated circuit, which could be 120 single phase, or it could be a 240. The minimum, one way to find out what's required, and the electrician will know to do this, is to read the manufacturer's instructions. That's where you start first. If you're an electrician, you know that the National Electrical Code, you need to also install the hydro massage tub according to the manufacturer's instructions, and it would tell you what size dedicated circuit is required. It's going to be either a 15 amp circuit or a 20 amp circuit. So having a dedicated circuit for the tub, it allows you to cut the power, and it would just be dedicated only to that particular appliance, well, that particular circuit, being the hydro tub. You also would, you don't want any other circuits on this circuit, because the tub it requires a dedicated circuit only to provide power to the tub. Each motorized component of the tub will require GFCI protection. For example, if you have a motor and if you have a heater or a blower, these will require a separate GFCI, and that's in the National Electrical Code. Also, in Article 680.72, it states that the luminaires and the switches and receptacles and other electrical equipment located in the same room and not directly associated with the hydro tub shall be installed in accordance with Article 1 through 4 in the National Electrical Code. So please make sure you're following those rules as well if you're going to install a hydro massage tub. Refer to chapters 1 through 4 for your installation requirements. One very, very important thing that I want to discuss regarding the tubs is accessibility. Article 680.73 requires that the hydro tub electrical equipment shall be accessible without damaging the building structure or building finish. The hydro massage tub is cord and plug with the supply receptacle accessible only through a service access opening. The receptacle shall be installed so that the face is within direct view and not more than 1 feet from the opening. Electricians will understand that terminology. As an inspector, what I find when I go to do inspections on these type of tubs, that there's a misconception with the requirements for an access panel. Several times I've done inspections on tubs, and the requirement, as I stated, and this is coming from the National Electrical Code, it says that the bathtub electrical equipment shall be accessible. So any electrical equipment that's associated with the tub has to have access. That access requires that if anything goes wrong with the tub and it requires a service technician to come out, that service technician will have a way to service it, and that access panel should, you want it large enough that you can remove the motor. I have had questions regarding, well, how large do the access panel need to be? I would just give a general rule of thumb that it has to be large enough for the largest electrical component inside that tub to be removed. Another thing with the accessibility is if you're going to service something, anything electrical, or service any piece of equipment, you must be able to see what you're servicing. That should be taken into consideration when you're installing an access panel. I've had several contractors and some homeowners state that they do not want access panels cut out in their homes because of the appearance. Unfortunately, the code doesn't account for that. And as an electrical contractor, it's your social obligation to inform your customers that in order to pass the inspection, it has to meet the minimum requirements of the National Electrical Code. And that requirement includes accessibility. I understand with homeowners, you want your home to look a certain way, but one thing that I would like to just give a public safety announcement, if you're going to install anything in your home, maybe you need to do a little bit of investigating to see what it entails. Because the electrical contractor, they're responsible to meet the minimum requirements of the code for safety reasons. And that's why it's only required a minimum requirement. So with the homeowners, if your contractor tells you that you have to have access panels, that's a true statement and it's a fact. And I understand that maybe you don't want that, but do a little research to see what type of tub or jacuzzi tub you're maybe able to get without cutting an access panel in your wall or in your home. Because there are some that have access panels in the front of the tub where you can remove that panel. But depending on where the motor is located, that will be the problem. Because as the code states, the receptacle placement has to be within 1 foot of the opening. And that's a misconception as well, because I've had contractors, electrical contractors, I've had some homeowners question me regarding what needs to be serviced. It's not only the receptacle to be serviced, it's any electrical components that's associated with the jacuzzi or the hydro massage tub. If it requires servicing, it must have access. Also, there is a code article for bonding. I get this a lot as well. I have received questions from building inspectors asking about the bonding requirements of the tub. There are bonding requirements, but for the most part, on the hydro massage bathtubs or jacuzzi tubs, there's an exception. In the majority of tubs that I've done inspections on, falls under 680, Article 680.74, Exception 2. If the motor is if it has a double insulated motor and blower, it shall not be bonded. So I probably would say maybe 80% of the tubs that I've inspected did not require bonding. Another thing I would like to mention with installing the hydro massage tubs is that as a homeowner, I know that some do not know what their homes are wired with. But that's also a very important concept when you're wiring a hydro massage tub, that the circuit conductor must be copper. Copper wiring is often required as it has a higher conductivity, but can also withstand electrical surges better than aluminum wiring. Aluminum wiring will deteriorate quicker than copper, which is why copper wiring is required for the installation of these type of tubs. Depending on the age of your home, it is still possible to find aluminum wiring in homes, but you can only use copper wiring if you're going to install a hydro massage tub or jacuzzi, or if you want to call it a whirlpool. The only conductors you are able to use would be copper wiring. And a fun fact with copper wiring is often preferred over aluminum. And that is because of the conductivity. It conducts better than aluminum because copper wiring has a higher tensile strength. The tensile strength of copper wiring is roughly 40% higher than aluminum. Copper wiring is less likely to break than aluminum wiring. Aluminum wiring is really a soft metal, and it's not allowed. As a homeowner, that's probably something you should ask your electrician when he comes out to give you a bid, or whoever's doing your bidding for your tub. That's something that needs to be addressed, whether your home is wired with aluminum or copper, because that will make a difference. Well, in summary, I would just like to remind the electrical contractors that when you're installing these tubs, just be upfront with the homeowners, and if there's something that they are not understanding, maybe you could pull out your code book, show them in the code book where it is a requirement. And you can inform the homeowners that if it doesn't meet the minimum requirements of the code, that section will not pass, and that they would be using the tub at their own risk. As always, safety is always the first priority.
Tabatha L will return next week with a new episode here on Ask the Lady Electrical Inspector.